Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chuchu is a Ranker. On this episode, we're going to be discussing the discography of the English rock band Supergrass. Formed in 1993 and hailing from Oxford, the band initially consisted of Gaz Coombs on guitar and vocals, Danny Goffey on drums, and Mick Quinn on bass, with Gaz's brother Rob Coombs later added on keyboards. And the band broke through in the Britpop period, standing out from the pack with their youthful zeal and punky energy, and went on to become one of the more critically acclaimed groups of the movement. Sadly though, the band broke up in 2010 while recording their 7th LP, as frontman Gaz Coombs had become disenchanted with the material that they were working on, and had become convinced that their next album was going to be terrible. So instead of being involved with such a release, he decided to break up the band instead, which as reasons go for breaking up a band is a pretty good one. And as for my own fandom, yeah, I like Supergrass. Although during the actual Britpop period itself, I barely had any interaction with them. It was only after the band's demise that I started to trickle piecemeal back through their discography. But what I found there was remarkably consistent. So, without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are the studio albums of Supergrass ranked from worst to best. So, we're going to be kicking off this list with Diamond Hoo-Ha, which was the band's 6th and final LP from 2008. Now, I mentioned in the intro that Supergrass's discography is remarkably consistent, and that's true, with the exception of this record right here. Whilst not a total disaster, it is nonetheless so far below the other Supergrass works in terms of quality and engagement that it's not even funny. And what we have here is a technically proficient 1970s revival record, which is, generally speaking, universally pleasant, but also pretty dull. Whatever creative spark or X-element Supergrass had on their previous albums is almost entirely absent here. I mean, this could be any generic vanilla 1970s revival act. There's just nothing identifiably Supergrassian about this. Also, some of the forays into slick mainstream pop production, like on the tracks Rebel in You or When I Need You, just don't really work. They make tunes that are already cusping on blandness tip further over the edge. So yeah, there's some good playing and musicianship on this, and there's nothing egregiously bad on it either, but when compared to everything else in the band's discography, it is incredibly bland. 2.5 stars. Next up, we have the band's self-titled 3rd LP from 1999. And yeah, this is a pretty good album with some really killer singles on it, but there's also something holding this record back from the outright greatness of the albums above it. And it's not easy to really put a finger on exactly why that is. After stewing on it for a bit, I think it's ultimately down to a lack of ambition. The other Supergrass albums have some kind of focus or specific idea that they're trying to get across. I mean, even Diamond Hoo-Ha had its 1970s revival thing. But this record really doesn't have that. This is more like a mix of bits and pieces from the first two albums. It sounds like Supergrass on autopilot, just writing songs in their natural state with no deeper thought. I mean, maybe that's why it's self-titled, because this is basically lazy Supergrass in sweatpants, watching daytime TV and eating microwave macaroni and cheese. But yeah, apparently Supergrass in sweatpants is still pretty damn good, and there are many highlights to go digging into. Moving kicks off the record with a classic, all iconic choruses and rhythmic funk breaks. Mary is another great single that features some nice 1970s keyboard work. Pumping on Your Stereo impresses with its glamminess and catchy refrain. What Went Wrong in Your Head has a cool stomping vibe to it, while Eon starts with some epic synths before dovetailing into a brooding post-punk number. So yeah, as I said, this is pretty good. Even the weaker tracks on this still qualify as decent. But the lack of ambition and general feeling of autopilot laziness does stall this particular outing at 3.5 stars. Coming in next, we have the band's debut album, Aisha Coco, from 1995. And here we find the band at their most youthful and energetic, charming the pants off everyone within listening range with their boisterous zeal and carefree spirit. And this LP comes in two distinct flavours, with the first half being reserved for punky catchy singles and clattering tunes with relentless pacing, while the second half is reserved for the type of tracks that show off the more varied sonic palette and allows the band to flex their deft technical muscles, while also adding more salient emotions into the mix. And both halves are absolutely rammed with highlights. I'd Like to Know starts the record off as it means to go on, with a whip-it-fast banger that features a catchy chorus and an extended musical outro. Caught by the Fuzz is one of the most iconic Britpop tunes and makes you want to start fist-fighting at your local model village. All Right is an amazing youthful pop tune that is instantly nostalgic with its hammered piano line, while Lenny has a memorable stuttering guitar riff and a Rolling Stones-style swagger to it. On the flip side, She's So Loose changes up the tonal palette at exactly the right time, just as the punky cuts start to play themselves out. Time is an utterly fantastic grooving slice of American-style 1970s rock, with some really cool guitar solos, while album highlight, Sofa of My Lethargy, is pitch-perfectly judged, with its swaying gentleness occasionally giving way to thrumming swells, and the guitar and keys on the track are just absolutely sublime. So yeah, this is a fantastic debut album that is close to being perfect. Its only nitpicky fault that restrains it from 5 stars is the duo of Strange Ones and Sitting Up Straight, which are decent tracks, but also represent the moment where the punky energy starts to become a touch overwhelming, and I'm always relieved when She's So Loose comes in to save the day and change things up a bit. But still, this is brilliant. 4.5 stars for this. Next up, we have In It For The Money from 1997, which was the band's second LP, and here we see the band easing off the clattering punk of their debut, but retaining that energy and distributing it across a more balanced set of tonal soundscapes. This is a wider, deeper, and noticeably darker record than their first outing. That said, they haven't sacrificed a single iota of their catchy potency, as this album contains more classics than you can shake an oversized cartoon spliff at. Richard III brings a new level of brooding darkness to the band, with its thunderous rolling rock riffs and glowering atmosphere. Late in the Day is a fantastic ballad with a strong hooky melody. Going Out is another immediately nostalgic Britpop single with a highly memorable keyboard riff, while album highlight, Sun Hits the Sky, is an awesome banger imbued with skyscraping catchiness, rocking energy and a totally rad keyboard break. But there's more to this than just the radio hits. Opener and title track In It For The Money perfectly builds anticipation with its revving organ and vocal intro. Tonight has some attention-grabbing bitty guitar parts that epileptically stutter about, as well as some waspy horn work. You Can See Me is a late album highlight with its fun grinding melody, while the likes of Hollow Little Rain and Sometimes They Make You Sad have cool guitar trills and interesting experimental aspects to their compositions. So yeah, this is a great sophomore effort from Supergrass that nicely expands upon the debut. But again, this is restrained slightly from the full 5 stars by a minor nitpick. This time it's the fact that the last 4 songs do take an incremental step down in quality. None of them are bad, in fact, they're all pretty good, but they're obviously not quite in the same league as the earlier tracks. In my opinion, the band should have saved one of the true bangers for the penultimate song. Late in the Day perhaps, for obvious reasons. Anyway, that is like the nitpickiest of nitpick gripes. This album is fantastic, 4.5 stars. So, here we are at the top of the mountain, and the Supergrass gold medal... Wait, this is only second place? How did that happen? I love this record. Well, shit. Coming in next, we have Road to Ruin from 2005, which was the band's 5th LP. And yeah, as I said, I love this album. In fact, if this record didn't exist, I don't think I would have gotten into Supergrass properly. I mean, I'd heard a couple of the Supergrass records prior to this and had enjoyed them, but this was the one that really stopped me in my tracks and sank its claws in. This LP was the seed of my fandom, which grew like the roots of a tree, leading me back to get into the band's other records on a deeper level. And here we find the band completely changing tact, making a much more spacious, atmospherically cohesive and emotional record than ever before, with an almost jazzy looseness to its compositions. And yeah, they just absolutely smashed this one out of the park. At 9 tracks running 35 minutes, there's not a single iota of dead wood on this LP. It's pretty much perfect from start to finish. Tales of Endurance Parts 4, 5 and 6 kicks the album off with an immediately different style, all spacious jangling guitars and jazzy theatricality. St. Petersburg has a great vibe with its dovetailing piano lines and stormy atmosphere. Roxy shows off the band's tight musicianship and has an exciting climax and a type of swirling string section that would give even Echo and the Bunnymen pangs of envy. While title track Road to Ruin is amazing with its funky pulse and wiry twisting guitar riffs. I could go on and detail the entire track list. Kick in the Teeth has some nice arpeggiated REM style guitar work on it. Low C has a gorgeous, clean and spacious melancholia. Coffee in the Pot is a delightfully twee instrumental, and Finn is a pitch perfect closer that wraps up the record in a suitably resigned way. So yeah, Road to Ruin is Supergrass on peak form and takes home a very easy 5 stars. Love this record. So here we are at the top of the mountain, for real this time, and the Supergrass Gold Medal is going to go to Life on Other Planets, which was the band's 4th LP from 2002. And here we find the band hitting their peak in pretty much every conceivable way. On this, the band are doubling down on the 1970s glam influences, with the ghost of T-Rex being ever present during the album's 40-minute runtime. But it works like a charm, with the band hitting their zenith of catchiness on unbelievably hook-ready cuts like the opening Tsar, with its nagging guitar riffs and strident energy, or Grace with its phenomenal earworm of a chorus. But they also hit highs with their emotional side too, with the 2 closing tracks Prophet 15 and Run bringing a rush of catharsis to the table. Prophet 15 draws you in with its lyrical tribute to the inspirational dead, while Run is just all kinds of epic. The moment those awesome Vangelis style synths kick in makes every hair on my body stand to attention. It's like Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog down in my nether regions. And just like Road to Ruin, I could reel off the entire track list in the highlight section, but I'll spare you that and just pick out a few more standouts. Seen the Light sees the album reaching its T-Rex aping peak with a fantastic ballad that nails its target with precision. Brecon Beacons has a really colourful soundscape which belies the dark lyrics about murder and revenge. Rush Hour Soul is a heaving, super catchy glam rocker, while Never Done Nothing Like That Before calls back to the band's debut with a slice of charming idiosyncratic punk. So yeah, buoyed by some really great bright production and tip-top songwriting, Life on Other Planets is a spectacular album that just about edges out Road to Ruin as my pick for the best Supergrass album, as well as getting a rock-solid 5-star rating. So, now my deep dive is finished, the question remains, did I gain more appreciation for the band? Well, the answer this time has to be no, but only because I already loved Supergrass coming into this, and I was intimately aware of the pleasures that awaited me. But it was still a lot of fun revisiting all these wonderful records. It's just been a great listening week. And that's my list, but of course that won't be your list, so please sound off in the comments section and tell me how you'd rank these records. Like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.